Today we are talking all about how to kick ass at stepmom life with one of the stepmom OGs.
I'm Cameron. I spent years building my career and creating a life I loved. And when my Prince Charming finally showed up, he had 4 kids in tow. Fast forward through lots of mistakes made and lessons learned, stepfamily life was much more complicated than I realized. If you're looking for help with blended family life, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Stepmom Diaries, where we keep it real as we dish about all the things. This is your weekly dose of blended family inspiration and encouragement. You're not the wicked stepmother, so let me help you find your fairy tale ending. Come on, let's do this.
Welcome. I am excited about today's episode. But before we get started, could I ask you a favor? Would you consider rating and reviewing the show? If you will, it'll help me reach more and more stepmoms just like you so that they too can get more out of stepmom life. It is super easy. All you have to do is go to your iTunes, scroll to the bottom when you go to the show, tap it to rate with 5 stars, and then hit write a review. And then just tell me what you love. Really appreciate it. So today, I am so excited to have Jamie Scrimgeour with me. If you haven't heard of Jamie before, she is one of the OGs in the stepmom space. She is a wife, stepmom, and mom to 4 kids, ranging in age from 8 to 20. When Jamie first became a stepmom, she, like a lot of us, quickly realized that she was in over her head. Disappointed in the type of support that was available for stepmoms, she decided to create what she was looking for. And now, as a top charting podcast host, digital creator, and life coach with a specialization in Stepfamily Dynamics, Jamie has become a real go-to for stepmom support. Paving the way for stepmoms, her loyal community of followers see her as the go-to for parenting, lifestyle, and personal growth content. Through her podcast, the Kickass Stepmom podcast, and her membership, the exclusive stepmom community, Jamie's goal is to inspire women to live their own version of a kick-ass life, while bringing them along as she creates her own. Jamie has a BA honors in psychology, a postgrad in social service work, and prior to starting her digital platform, she enjoyed a career in child protection. So let's dive in. Jamie, I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. So we're going to just jump into all the things. But first, I always like to ask my stepmom guests about their origin story. And I know that you are a little similar to me. And I met Craig and we got engaged after 2 months, jumping in, full force. And I think you and Darren met and got engaged and settled down very quickly also. But so give me your stepmom origin story.
Yeah. Okay. So picture this. I'm 26. I am working in child protection. So here in Canada, that's the like CAS. And I think, you guys have a different word for it in the States. But so I was a child protection worker and like doing yoga every night, lived with my dog and my sister, just kind of had a great just thing going. Right. And I found out that Darren was recently separated and I had always loved him, right? I knew who he was. I can remember every time I'd ever seen him. I know exactly what I was wearing. I know, he took my breath away so many times. And so I reached out on Facebook and I had added him to Facebook, which is interesting because I was running a charity golf tournament prior to like a couple of years earlier. And I had invited him to this charity golf tournament and he never responded. Little did I know, the guy had no idea how to use Facebook. And so when I was doing kind of like a clean out, I had deleted him because I was like, I don't ever even see him, and you just kind of go through your friends after university and stuff. So he writes back, he's like, oh, I thought we were friends on Facebook already. That was his response. And I said, oh yeah, I have no idea what happened.
Oops.
Oops. But thank God I did that because that's kind of what, got the ball rolling and us talking. And so we went out for dinner and it was just a done deal. Really. We went out, it was like, I think 5 or 6 o'clock. He picked me up and we were out until after midnight. the conversation was great. And 3 dates in, I knew I was going to marry him. And so, yeah, that was in March. I moved in July. We were engaged in October, had already picked out our wedding venue and the ring at that point. So it was just kind of the formality. Married in June, and then we were pregnant with our daughter Reese in August. So it was really, we have a 13-year age difference too, which was, is always interesting. But in such a short period of time, I went from 0 to 4 kids.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's, similar to mine. I love it. But when you know, and I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing. So you talk a lot about your own personal growth and healing and how being a stepmom has played a role in that. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I think it really stems back to, my childhood. So I grew up with divorced parents. I lived with my dad. I really didn't have a relationship with my mom. There was a lot of abandonment wounds from that and just feelings of insecurity and rejection. And I always had, anger issues as a kid. Stefan's like, oh, she has anger issues. No, actually, her parents are divorced and no one's helping her cope, but okay, blame the child. But
totally.
I just always had this stuff, right? And, as soon as Darren and I got together, all of this stuff that I didn't think ever bothered me or didn't think, was an issue for me creeped in. And, my perfectionism, my abandonment wounds, my, need for control, all of this was coming up, it was causing a lot of issues. That's not fun to live with anyone like that. I wasn't fun to live with. And Darren talks about how, I was struggling so much that he would feel like he was walking on eggshells. How was I going to be that day? And it's because I was constantly being triggered about things. And, it's really easy to be like, well, the kids are not cleaning up after themselves, or, the ex is doing this, which is, all true and all just facts of life, really, and facts of parenting and co-parenting. But, my reactions were really excessive. I was really triggered. I was really consumed. And, I got to the point where I realized, if I don't change, we're not going to make it. If I don't change some things, because I was waiting for everyone else to realize all the things they were doing wrong, and they didn't really seem to care. They weren't changing at all. And so, that was really kind of started my personal growth journey, and just kind of diving into everything that had been going on for me and understanding my triggers and understanding why I'm feeling the way I am. And it really, it often has very little, well, most of the time has very little to do with the actual trigger itself. It's what's going on underneath of that.
That's so true.
Doing that has been just such a catalyst to so much change in my life, but it's transformed our step family life too, right? Everything really is very similar, but I do believe, the woman does set the tone of the house. We have this ability, our energy. And when we're really stressed or we're on edge or we're just feeling triggered all the time, it trickles into how the kids react and how they respond and your marriage. And it really is a huge trickle effect.
Absolutely. And that work that you had to do, that's really hard work to do. And it's really hard work to have to to know that you've got to sort of confront these things in your past before you can move forward.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't want to sit here and be like, yeah, I'm healed. I've gone through it all. I don't have to do this work anymore. Even yesterday I was having a conversation with my sister and I was like, I feel like I'm at the point where I really can accept things and let things go. And, it's a process and it ebbs and flows. But I think it's really important to be in tune with yourself about what's going on. And, now I'm at the point where I want to lose my shit about shoes on the floor or the kids leaving dishes in the sink or something my stepson's done. I'm really self-aware now that I can be like, okay, you know what? This is not about that. This is about what you're going through or how you're feeling with something else. When you're not taking care of yourself, those triggers are far more likely to, come out in not so great ways.
So true. But I love that point of you've got to spend the time kind of taking care of your needs, because otherwise it's going to just completely blow up in your face and make things a lot more complicated than they need to be.
Yeah. And a lot of stepmoms don't like hearing that. They don't, even the other day I posted a reel where I was talking about, just taking responsibility for yourself and your reactions and stop focusing so much on the ex. And, I get so many responses. Well, yeah, but you're not dealing with this, or what if you're dealing with this, or like all of these situations. And there's some really gnarly situations out there. And I'm not
Absolutely.
minimizing those in any way, shape, or form. I've also had some pretty crazy situations myself that, one day I'll write a book. I don't know. Like, it hasn't been easy for us either. But, the only thing you really can control is your reaction and your mindset about that. And, maybe your reaction is that you guys are getting a lawyer and you're going to deal with this. Like, maybe your reaction is you're going to call Child Protective Services. Maybe your reaction is that you need to hire a, parenting coordinator to mediate your conversations. But there are so many things that you can control. And so when I say things like that, I'm not like, let's go all kumbaya and just like focus on our breath and focus on things that we can control. That's not what this is about. What I'm saying is, okay, what are you going to do to minimize the impact that this has on you? What's your plan? Right. And I think that, that brings you back into a power position instead of being like, oh, well, I'm just such a victim and, they have so much control over your life. They do have an element of control, as does anyone who is in your life. Like, they can impact your life. But I think we give these outside forces so much more control. And, we'll say, oh, well, I didn't choose this. I didn't choose this life. Well, I had this really great conversation with Sarah Jane Case from Enneagrams and Coffee. And she's a stepmom, and she was saying, no, I did choose this. And I re-choose it every single day. If you are in a toxic situation and this is not what you want for your life, you can leave too, right? Like, you can make choices. And I think that's kind of where my big messaging comes in.
Yeah, that's so true. And I love that you talk about the fact that, like, these issues, it's not necessarily that you kind of fix everything and move on and everything's great. I mean, you and I are both stepmom coaches, and we both still deal with stuff all the time. And we both have to remind ourselves that, like, in fact, actually, my husband reminded me the other day, we were talking about something about that was happening at the other house was driving me crazy. And Craig said, what is it that you always tell your stepmoms? Focus on what you can control. And I was like, yeah, take my own advice.
Yeah,
it's like you really have to
just spout off advice of what other people should do, then follow it with yourself, right? It's a process. Like, no one, and I never want anyone to be like, oh, well, they're never triggered, or they never have a breakdown, or they never feel upset about things. Yeah, we're all human beings, but you just can't pack up and stay in that place, right? Because it's just not productive.
Yeah, exactly. And learning how to deal with it's just such a game changer. Where is it that you think most stepmoms go wrong?
Oh, that's a really hard question. I think it's the control piece and really like fixating on things. And I do think a lot of stepmoms a lot of stepmoms who are having issues in their relationship. Not all stepmoms, but there's a camp where they're blaming everyone else and not taking any responsibility for what they're doing to contribute to the dynamic and to the situation. And it's very, well, yeah, but they're doing. And, there's a question I like to ask clients, and I think I've posted some of this stuff online before. Like, if you were your stepkids, would you like you? Like,
that's such a good question.
You if you were them? And I think we have to remember, like, these kids did not ask for any of this, and they don't owe us anything. They really don't. They're just collateral damage in all of this. And so I think that's a big mistake that some stepmoms make. And then on the flip side, so these are two different camps, because, there's no one size fits all approach, but taking things very personally and thinking,
and it's so easy.
And that's natural.
To do that.
It's so easy and it's natural. But, I think we need to take a step back. I was just reading a comment on my Instagram. Someone was saying how it's been like 10 years and BioMom doesn't accept that she plays a role in the kids' lives. She's been in their life since they were like very young. It was like 1 or 2, and says that her family is not their family and just all of these things. And I fell for this woman, but also I'm like, that is not about you. That is about her insecurities, about her parenting and her feeling threatened and
100%.
it has nothing to do with you at all, right? You are obviously their family. You have been in their lives for like 10 years, So,
but it is so natural to fixate on like this one person that may be an asshole and be like, but people like me. Why won't you like me? Why won't you accept me?
Yeah. But, on the flip side, there's so much pressure to have this hearts and sparkles co-parenting relationship. And this is how it should be. And, there's a lot of grief that happens there too, right? Grieving the type of co-parenting relationship that you thought you'd have. So there's like grieving the type of family you thought you'd have, then grieving the type of co-parenting relationship because you thought you guys would all be able to, get along and do things to the best interest of the kids. But you forget that there's however many years of hurt and resentment and, unsolved issues that led to that breakdown of the marriage. And it takes everyone to have just to be in this place of growth and healing. And that's a really hard place to be and a hard place to get. Like I've spent a lot of time trying to forgive people in my own life. And, someday I'm like, oh yeah, I've got it. Like I'm healed. And then other days I'm just like consumed by it. So we have to, I think, give the ex a little bit of grace. And it doesn't mean we accept how they're acting or how they're treating us, but just know like they're in their own healing journey. And maybe they are in a place to healthfully have that co-parenting relationship with us.
And that they may never be in that place,
right.
and that's okay too. I mean,
to be,
Yeah.
If you're getting stressed out and anxious every time you get a text message from the ex, there's a really good possibility that that's not the right move for you. Right?
Exactly.
You shouldn't be corresponding with someone on a regular basis who's hijacking you.
Yeah. How do you advise your stepmoms who maybe have a different idea of what the parenting style should be in their family? And I know that there's sort of, the parenting style in your household with your spouse, and then the ex may have a totally different parenting style. But what about when you have two different parenting styles in the same house with stepmom and spouse? How do you talk to stepmoms about handling that? Because that can always be really tricky. It's sort of like, I get that we're supposed to be on the same team versus the other house, but we're not on the same team with us. And how do we do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think it's also important to remember that happens with parents who aren't split too, or who don't have that step parenting dynamic, right? Darren, the things Darren lets Reese do, I don't necessarily agree with every time. Decisions he makes when he's totally in charge of her, I probably wouldn't. And vice versa. But for the most part, we want the same thing. Our overall goal for the kids is the same, but just understanding that, because I think when you have that extra layer of, you almost feel like, there's that power difference, right? Between the stepmom and the other parent, then that's where it becomes even more of an issue. And it triggers you, but it's actually not about the different parenting styles. It's about you feeling like you're not appreciated and respected as a parent in this family. You almost feel like you need to prove your place. So, I think just diving into that, being cognizant of that blind spot is really important, but also just like sitting down and hearing each other out. Because often when we talk to our partner and we say, well, we need to get on the same page, right? Like we want to get on the same page about parenting. What that means for most women is I'm right and I need you to get on my page. Right?
That's true.
Our problem.
So true.
Right? So we're not on the same page. We think we could do things better. So we want to come in and say, this is the better page to be on, which maybe is right, maybe is wrong, but not productive. So even just hearing them out as to why they don't think that's a big deal, or why they're responding that way, or why they don't have so much value over, a strict bedtime routine or whatever it is, like just understanding why and hearing each other out and like having that open and honest conversation instead of it being, this is because these women will get into these conversations with their partner and they tell them we need to get on the same page. And so, often this is within a heterosexual relationship. So the man doesn't even want to be in this conversation to begin with. So he's going to say whatever the hell he needs to say to get out of this conversation. So he's like, yeah, I agree with these rules. I want to be, on the same page. And then the next time it happens, they don't follow through. And then the stepmom's pissed. Well, did he act? If he does not follow through, he doesn't care. He's not, that you're not aligned. So, just really hearing each other out and then picking your battles. You got to pick your battles, right?
That's so true. Yeah.
And your husband or your partner are parenting differently than you, and it is this constant battle. You have a choice. You can continue to battle this for the rest of your marriage, or you can learn to let some things go. And I found it really helpful. I don't say a lot about things now. We're pretty aligned now. I've really come around. He's come around. We've been together 10 years, so we're pretty aligned. But I don't say something about every little thing that pisses me off, because then it becomes like this white noise in the background, and like someone's always just like chirping, right? When I say no to something, or I'm like, absolutely not, they hear me now, because I don't say it a lot. So when you have an issue with everything, they don't hear you. It's just this constant nagging. So getting really clear on like, what are your hard no's, and that, right?
Yeah. And setting some boundaries, which is a good segue to talk about those, because I feel like you're very good at kind of identifying and setting very clear boundaries, but that can be really hard for a lot of stepmoms, especially when they're kind of shoulding themselves to death. Like, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, and kind of getting over that and saying, you know what, why am I guilting myself into doing something that's causing me anxiety and making me miserable and like hurting the family because I'm miserable? How do you talk to women about learning how to set those boundaries? Because it can be really hard to learn how to do that.
Yeah. And, on the flip side, I do feel like the whole boundary thing has gotten way out of control, and people are like, well, this is my boundary. This is my boundary. So, but you're going to have no one in your life soon because you have all these boundaries, right? Are your boundaries walls? That's something to really, I will say to stepmoms.
Yeah. Are they real boundaries? Yeah.
Are they just walls up and you're just like being a difficult person? Right. And this may feel triggering to some, because everyone's like, you need to get really clear on your boundaries and stick to them. But I think before you really have to get clear on your boundaries, I think it's really important to get clear on what kind of stepmom do you want to be? How do you want to show up? What type of relationship do you want to have? How do you want to support your partner? How would you like your partner to support you? What is this going to look like? Right? So before you're just like setting all these boundaries because you read an Instagram post about what your boundaries should be, do some deep dive with your partner, with yourself, and then your partner. I'm like, who do I want to be in this family? What are our goals for this family? How do I want people to feel when they walk in this house? How do I want to feel? And then start to walk through your boundaries. So I have this course, which is like my signature course, Kickass Stepmom, Kickass Life. And in doing that, I walk you through how to figure that out for yourself, right? So how will you respond when this happens? How will you respond when the ex asks you to do something that is not your responsibility? Planning ahead for all of these things. But when you really define your role and define how you're going to show up, those boundaries just come, right? So instead of just skipping to the boundary part, I think it's really important to do that back work on figuring out, what is this going to look like? And knowing that your boundaries can change, right? Your boundaries can change over time. For the longest time, I wasn't talking to my husband's ex because it just wasn't working at that point. It was causing me too much anxiety. He had to take over. We really didn't have much communication. That's what was working during that time. Now there was just some stuff going on with my stepson at school. I was helping him out with some things. We were arranging some tutoring, and it just made more sense for me to reach out to her than it did for my husband, just because of where they're like everything, just their roles, right? I reached out to her. It was a great conversation. We got on the same page. We go and pick her up. We go to parent-teacher meetings. She even drives with us, which was like huge shock for me.
That's
Never
amazing.
In my lifetime was ever going to happen. It was so embarrassing though. My car was disgusting, right? Like if I knew someone was going to come in my car, especially my husband's ex, I was like, I am mortified. I had no idea you were coming in this car. Like I'm not.
I love that.
But we went to the parent teacher meeting together, and so then I wrote her, and she made me feel so included the whole time. This is my first parent-teacher meeting. Not because I was told not to go, just because it never felt like it was necessary. And I wrote her a text and I said, hey, thanks for making me feel included. I'm glad we could do that together. And, she wrote me back like the nicest message just about like a perspective shift and stuff that she had. We're 10 years in. So like your boundaries don't have to be just like rigid and forever is the point of the story. I always am asking stepmoms to say like, is what I'm doing working? Is it affecting my ability to show up? Right? Like questions like that. Is it aligned with the type of stepmom I want to be or the type of relationship I want to have? Mm-hmm. Like if you have a boundary that you're never helping drive the kids because it's not your responsibility and this is whatever, and then your husband's stuck at work and is really in a jam, you're not going to do it because it's your boundary. It's like,
right.
That's being a dick, right? Like they need your help. You have the ability to help out. Like, we need to just be a little more flexible and intentional with just how we're responding to things. Well, staying true to our boundaries, but I think it's gotten a little out of control.
But I love that word intentional because I think that that's, so much of what we're talking about, right, is sitting down and really being intentional about all of this, thinking about who we want to be, how we want to show up, and then being intentional about what that looks like in execution, And it's stuff that, I know this too, when we started out as stepmoms, nobody told us that. We had to kind of figure it out, it's really, you kind of get thrown into this and you do the best you can, and then you sort of figure it out,
Mm-hmm. For sure. And, at that point I was going all in, doing everything for everyone. So if you're in that situation and you need to take a step back and set some boundaries, but maybe it's not the word boundary. Maybe it's, I just need to take a little step back and, I've kind of gone in too hard, but having that conversation with your partner, right? But in those situations, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Like your delivery means a lot. It can really make or break how things pan out.
100%. And as long as, your partner knows that you're coming from a place of love, that's huge too. That you're not coming in
not of
with
resentment, right?
Guns blazing,
him and his kids and the ex and just like pissed off. And you're setting these boundaries when you're just angry at everyone like that. That is not the time to be having conversation about boundaries.
Yeah, totally. Oh, so true. I love it. This is amazing advice. Jamie, you're a fantastic coach and one of the OGs, and I'm so glad to have you here with us today. Tell everybody where they can find you. I know, right? Yeah. Now I feel like that's one of those terms that my stepkids would tell me that nobody says anymore. And so I'm officially old, but I don't know.
The OG. Oh yeah, I'm officially old. I used to know what was cool for my stepkids, and now they're just like, oh, no.
I caught myself double checking with my stepdaughter the other day about jeans. I'm like, are these jeans still cool or do I need to pick out some different jeans?
Yeah,
she's like, they're still cool. I was like, okay.
We should have a whole podcast on that because I think we need to wear whatever freaking jeans make us feel good and, just fit our bodies. Like at this point,
I know, right?
We know what works with our body. We don't need to be finding jeans that, are huge, baggy. I don't know. Okay, I could go on.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I know.
Find me.
Yes, where can you find you?
Instagram, on my website, all at Jamie Scrimgeour. I'm sure you'll spell that for everyone. And I have a membership. So it is the Kickass Stepmom membership, formerly the exclusive Stepmom community. We have just so many resources and workshops and stuff over there. So if you're really struggling, you need some help. My goal really is for stepmoms to get them to the point where they don't need coaches. Sorry. Hopefully that's okay with you too.
Absolutely.
But just that they're the expert on their own life and you don't get hijacked by all the BS because there's tons of BS. But that's where
there's just a lot of noise out there. And you'll also see Jamie coming up in just a very short, I think, amount of days, couple weeks. April 20th to 22nd is the Stepmom Summit. And you can register for that at thestepmomsummit.com/registration. I'll put a link in the show notes, which will be at thiscustomlife.com/episode 62. And I will also link to all of Jamie's resources. Definitely go check her out. And Jamie, thank you so much for being here and for speaking at the Stepmom Summit. We're so excited about that. And I know we're going to have a lot of folks tuning in there as well. But thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been great. And wear whatever jeans you want.
I know, I love it.
that's it for this week. If you've enjoyed our chat, I hope you'll help spread the word. Share this episode with friends and head on over to wherever you listen to podcasts and leave me a review. And don't forget, for more great stepmom content, head on over to thiscustomlife.com and follow me on social media. Just search This Custom Life on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. Until next time, you keep being you and know that we are in this together. See you here next week.